Next up, we have Pritam Misri. Pritam is a sophomore at the Athenian School. As a chapter leader and an organizer for the AAPI Youth Rising, he hopes to bring a tangible change in this community. Pritam has been competing in debate for several years. He enjoys listening to history podcasts, reading political autobiographies, and jamming with his friends on the flute and sax.
Yeah, Pritam!
Aren't we all better than the worst thing we have done in our lives? Today, our justice system has become less of a system of healing, but a system of punishment. Not one of teaching, but of retribution. In our state of California, if you are 14 or older, you can be tried as an adult for certain crimes. If someone commits a crime when they're only in high school, they should not have to face the repercussions of that for the rest of their life. California is also one of the few states where you can get a strike for a crime you committed before you were even eligible to drive a car. And we're seeing this unfold in front of our eyes in what we deem to be the land of the free. We've created a culture of fear rather than one of forgiving. We create scapegoats to punish rather than look within us and find humanity. And as someone all of 15 years old, it is painful to see people my age condemned to life in prison. Now, I'm going to ask you all to do something for me. I want you to point your finger up in the air. I want you to circle and make a clock. Turn it clockwise. And I'll slowly keep spinning it and bring it down to eye level. Now I want you to tell me, is it still spinning clockwise? No. So I want you to remember this activity. It was shown to me first by the former diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice head at my school. And he used this activity to explain perspectives. Now I want you to hold on to it because I'll get back to it later. One day I was scrolling through the news and I came across a story of a guy named David Mandeville. Now, David was raised on a farm in a large family. And after graduating from high school, he became addicted to drugs. He often had to steal to pay for his drugs. And once, when a burglary went askew, he and his partners shot the owner of the house. Dave was then sentenced to life in prison on first-degree murder charges. It seems straightforward. David should pay for his crimes. But I now want you to think back to that activity. What if I told you that during his time in prison, David began to regret the choices he made as a teenager? He tried to get accepted into a program that helps those in prison hospice care. We can see clearly through the story that David has changed, but the laws in place don't allow him to go back into the world, society, and his community. Instead, he must die in a cell. There are thousands of people like David, facing a life sentence for something they did when they were young. At a time, they didn't get the support or help they needed. And yet, when we talk about the criminal justice system, we only tell one story, the clockwise one, the easy one for us outsiders, unburdened with complexities. And the easy one is never the complete one. The Prison Journalism Project estimates that there are 53,000 people in our country serving life without parole. 53,000 people like David. In our society, we like to use terms like law and order and discipline, but is this what discipline really is? But the problem does not lay solely in prisons. When felons are given the opportunity to be released, they face laws that bar them from being a part of our society and democracies. According to the Campaign Legal Center, there are 6 million people in our democracy who cannot vote due to disenfranchisement laws. In a country that is considered one of the largest democracies in the world. We make it legal for presidents to be felons, yet others aren't even allowed to vote for who should represent them. Through systems such as bail, we have made it easier to be wealthy and guilty than poor and innocent. In other words, we're selective and partial to whom we choose to give second chances. Our system gives these chances only to a few who we arbitrarily believe deserve it. The United States is also one of 55 countries that implements the death penalty, and one of 5 first world countries that still use this archaic method of punishment. We have normalized this idea of dying for a crime, but we fail to realize that this is one of the few practices in which we punish someone to the same degree as their crime. If someone steals something, we don't go ransack the perpetrator's house. If someone is charged for assaulting someone, we don't assault them back. Yet if someone kills a person, we choose to end their life. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. The Equal Justice Initiative tells us that for every 8 people that are executed on death row, 1 is exonerated. Additionally, we cannot have the conversation about criminal justice in America without talking about race. The Equal Justice Initiative goes on to tell us that 41% of those on death row are African American, and yet they only make up 13% of our country's population. This is just one aspect that reveals the immense racial inequities and biases in our communities. Now, I'm going to end with one last story. It's Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m., and I'm volunteering at the Prisoners Literature Project, a project based in San Francisco and Berkeley that works to make literature accessible to those incarcerated by reading through letters from prisoners with book requests. We then pick a book that best fits the person's request and add it to the pile. And we rubber band the letter on top. Sometimes we can't give the books that are requested due to prison restrictions, what incarcerated individuals can and can't read. For example, books with maps or drawings. Anyway, I pick up another letter, and this time I don't get it up immediately to go to the bookshelf. I pause and reread it a couple of times. Now this letter is from a man in prison in Florida. He has requested books, The New Jim Crow, and books on the Black Panther Party, as well as books on Black Revolution. And as I turned over the letter to read the restrictions, I noticed in bold lettering, no books on Black Power. Though I'm not aware of the exact background of this prisoner, I believe that every person should have the right to read what they want. No person should have to stay locked up their whole life. And I believe a child should be allowed to see the light of day before they die. And I believe that we are better than the worst things we have done in our lives. I believe in giving second chances. Thank you.
That was a really powerful and important topic, Pritam. Thank you for sharing. I never knew how harsh the consequences were for kids who commit crimes, even here in California.